His paper is entitled Sending Signals That Reassure in the Attention Economy. Please welcome Edward.
Thank you. So attention is a big deal. You can see just what happened there. We needed to gather attention, and without the attention, nothing happens. That's basically what we're talking about. When it comes to sending signals that reassure, I probably should not have started with this slide, but this slide is basically my presentation. It doesn't make sense right now, but it will. We're going to talk about the attention economy, problems communicating in the attention economy, how to solve the problems, and a little bit about McLuhan's tetrad. But we'll start with 3 quotes, just 3. So my experience is what I agree to attend to, only those items which I notice shape my mind. First, you have to notice. If there's nothing noticed, nothing happens. It's just a tree that falls in the forest. Every interaction comes with a cost, not in cash money, but in something worth even more, the attention of the person you're interacting with. So as I'm interacting with you right now, I'm giving you information, and you are paying me attention. That exchange is valuable. Attention has become the most valuable commodity in the media world. The underlying principle is simple. Where the attention goes, the money will inevitably follow. First comes attention, then comes money. Without attention, there's no money later. So basically, attention transactions matter. They drive the economy. Without the attention, there's no money later down the road. So they matter now more than ever before, mostly because of this fish, honestly. So the average human attention span in 2000, 13 seconds. The average human attention span in 2013, 8 seconds. The average attention span of a goldfish, 9 seconds, okay? So clearly attention is a bit of a problem. When it comes to communicating in the world we're in today, attention is a problem. Our audiences just don't have any. Growth in time spent with media is slowing because our audiences don't have more attention to give. So that gets complicated because of the curse of knowledge. The curse of knowledge is basically this. We used to get information like this. These guys are firemen. Now we get information like this. We're drinking from the fire hose when it comes to getting information. So we have access to tons of data, but we have so much of it, we can't figure out what it all means. That's the curse of knowledge. So that's another thing we run into anytime we want to communicate. So those problems create new values in our audiences, and they interact with new economies. For example, the subscription economy, where people are paying for information that they can get for free. And they're paying for that because they value curation. They value curation so much they'll pay for it. It's organized, it's relevant, it saves people time, and there's a trust factor. And that's really becoming increasingly valued. The trust thing is driven to a certain extent by the surveillance economy, where basically with anything that's free, it's only free because we're the product. It's becoming mainstream. You know, more and more people are sort of getting on board with the idea that with the biggest companies out there, Facebook and Google, they offer free things, but they're only free because they are harvesting our data, and our attention, and then reselling it. So they are the most profitable companies in the world because they are selling us. And as that becomes more of a mainstream thing, it further drives low trust. So the third problem we have when it comes to communicating with the average audience is our audiences don't have trust. It's got to the point where some people are branding themselves as experts for communicating in a post-trust environment. In our post-scarcity world, distribution is not king and neither is content. Conversation is the kingdom, this sort of human-to-human interaction, and trust is king. So I want to talk about how to solve those communication problems, but to do that, we have to talk a little bit about why attention is a boundary resource. Why does attention limit us in the first place? And it all comes down to cognitive load. It comes down to other things as well, but there's no time to get into those. Basically, it's as easy as this. It really is. Thinking is an effort. It's a load. It's a cognitive load. And like any load, if there's too much, things begin to break. As we get overwhelmed by information, things going on that we're paying attention to, we can only pay attention to so many things, and then something goes wrong. We have the same 1,440 minutes in a day, that our grandparents had when they read one newspaper a night. But today, this is what's going on right now, right? Emails sent today, tweets, blog posts, videos viewed on YouTube. So we have vastly more than one newspaper a night, but we have the same amount of time. And that's a big problem because when we're overwhelmed, it is as if we are impaired. So this guy's a pickpocket, who's actually a good guy, and he's going to overwhelm this guy and steal his wallet. His wallet's inside his jacket. Just as an example of what happens when we're overwhelmed. So here we go.
So you've got a wallet in this outside jacket pocket. Yep. And do you have anything on your jacket pocket over here? Okay. If you would you check your front pocket over this way? That's the steal.
No, you didn't see it. I didn't see it. None of us saw it. We're paying attention to something else, and because of that, it's as if we are impaired. So when everyone is overwhelmed with data, like literally, really and truly, when we're all getting too much information, it's as if, when it comes to communicating, we're communicating to a nation of drunk people. So I suggest this is the world you need to plan for. This is the world you need to expect. If you're going to interact with the public, expect them to do this. Whoever did this was either drunk or on their smartphone. It's basically the same thing. There's even studies on it for real, right? Just having your phone within reach makes you dumber. I don't want to say it because we all do. The mere presence of one's own smartphone reduces available cognitive capacity. I'm dedicating mental resources to this, which means I have less mental resources for everything else. And it's the same for anyone that we interact with, communicate with, so on and so forth. So there's all these problems with communicating with people who are overwhelmed by information, but how to solve those problems. So a very quick residual dominant emergent look at solutions. So in the past, to get attention, we made quality content. And very honestly, for me, that's what I did 5 years ago, basically. I was very circa 1880 in terms of trying to solve this problem. Think of War and Peace, great quality content, 1,225 pages. So that was in the past. Today, we make fun of the past, right? A book is, you got to sell it like, just think of it as if you're reading a long text message. So this old idea of create quality content and people will come doesn't have the same pull. Today we develop easily skimmable content. We use Gestalt principles. We use things like color and texture, size, space, shape to do information design to documents. We make things easier to skim. It's chunked, people get through it quicker. Today we rely on visual content, emojis, infographics, so on and so forth. We don't want them to read. It takes up too much time, too much cognitive effort. Today, one of the things, if you see presentations out of San Francisco or elsewhere, people are relying on inappropriate language to get attention. So there's an example. For good or for bad, it gets attention. Another thing we're doing is we're making things move. So cinemagraphs, if you're not familiar with those, they're amazing. I suggest you check them out. Web animations, videos, GIFs. If you go to apple.com and look up the iPad Pro, you'll see what I mean by this whole movement thing. Movement captures attention. So those are things we're doing today. And today, when it comes to dealing with low trust, what we're doing is we're priming people. This is what I sort of interpret. We're priming people to think of a time when they did have trust. Not necessarily us, but of an era when trust was prevalent. So there's all this vintage stuff. There's all these signals, vintage stuff, vintage textures, hipsters. Like, look at the wall behind me. So nostalgia today is a trust signal that signals authenticity. So those are things that we're doing today, but what is about to come? What are people going to trust in the future? What's emerging, right? So it's anyone's guess, but here are some possible futures. One is content shock is going to get worse. So content shock is this idea that the more information we put out, the less people engage with it. It's a problem because most of us are solving this problem by putting up more content, which means people engage with it less, and so on and so forth. So content shock is this perfect storm. It's only going to get worse. Another possible future. Easy will become the new true. Make it easy, make it familiar, make the connections for people, and they will flock to you. They just want to hear what's easy. That's it. Medium.com has its own specific publication, has its own blog, and after research and design, the title of their blog is 3-Minute Read. Now, most of the blogs on that blog are 7 minutes or longer, but the title is 3-Minute Read. It's not true, but it's easy. Another possible future, curation will become the new creation. And I stole that articulation from Martina Olbertova in conversations earlier. I was looking for a way to put it, and she put it perfectly. So there's so much stuff out there that less and less we're going to create meaning through new things. More and more we're going to create meaning through curating what is already there. Basically, curation saves people time. Now, we're already doing this, but in the future, the companies that do curation, and as they do curation, they send signals that we respect your privacy. We are offering transparency. We're showing how we are coming up with these suggestions. And they offer audience agency. They give the audience some choice in what gets shown to them. The curators that do this will draw the attention versus the curators that just basically don't respect privacy, transparency, and audience agency. So another possible future. Well, I shouldn't say possible future because it's here. So micro-chunking done to text. It's also called syntactic queuing or phrase formatting, and it's basically information design, but it's done to sentences, not to documents. So we've been using information design to make things easier to absorb forever. No one's done it to sentences because it's too complex, but now there's technology that does it. Basically, in a sentence, there's parts of a sentence that have high meaning, there's parts of a sentence that don't. And of and the have no meaning, basically. So if you slightly adjust the spaces between words to create pauses, much as orators do, think of Martin Luther King as he speaks, right? It's the pauses that draw attention. So as you adjust the spaces between words, you can, very subtly, not in an obvious way, you can guide eye movements so people pay attention to the high meaning parts of a sentence. It can be done, and people get the high meaning parts of the sentence quicker, they go through documents quicker, and it's easier. Easier is better. It's just something people pick up on. So that's another way to capture attention that is being done right now. To be honest with you, I work for the company that does it, Asymmetrical Labs. So another very cool way of capturing attention is conversational presenting. The presentation I'm doing right now is linear. I've decided the order, and you're getting the order as I designed it. Conversational presenting is basically putting topics, so Prezi.com does this perfectly. Basically, you put topics up there. Each of those topics can expand into details. The audience says, I want to talk about this, I want to talk about that. And you're capturing their attention because they are telling you, I want to pay attention to this. So conversational presenting is genius. It gets attention. Again, it all goes back to that very first thing, that very first quote. It starts with getting noticed. Everything I say, if you're not noticing it, if you're tweeting or so on and so forth, which is okay, it's as if I said nothing. It all starts with that attention. So first you have to get attention. Yes, plus something rather strange. So there's these possible futures. There's also this one. The von Restorff effect, I think, is really going to emerge, and I hope it will emerge. The basic idea of this effect is that the quickest way to get attention is to break a pattern. I was going to wear a baseball cap and put it on as I began the conversation, because I would be the only one in the room with a baseball cap. And everyone would be going, why the heck is he wearing a baseball cap? I didn't. But it would have got attention, because it breaks a pattern. And if you think about it, we've been blending in to avoid attention forever. The fish that is part of the group is fine. The fish that is alone on the side is going to get noticed, probably get eaten, right? The zebras that blend in to the background are okay. The zebras in the herd are okay. The zebra that stands out is going to get noticed, probably get eaten. So we've been blending in order to avoid attention, which means if you want to get attention, you need to stand out one way or another, right? So that was too quick. That was far too quick about potential futures about how to capture attention. But I said I'd talk about McLuhan's tetrad. So very quickly, towards the end of his career, Marshall McLuhan said when it comes to mediums, there's these 4 basic laws, 4 basic tendencies. Any medium will enhance something, amplify, reverse into something, it'll obsolesce something, it'll kill something, and it will retrieve something. So I applied this medium, or this framework, I should say, to a branding problem. I was working for biblio.org, which is a recommender system, one of those automated curators. They're all about machine learning, math, algorithms, very, very technical, perfect machine stuff. So they really emphasize speed, technical accuracy, perfection, linear, non-creative associations, which is all good, but what's coming? So what will this sort of thing reverse into? And I saw it as reversing into a more of a focus on glitchy, imperfect, but somehow more authentic human stuff, and a new value on creative association. So what it enhances and amplifies will at some point reverse into these things, and will retrieve the value of a human-to-human recommendation. There's a bookstore I go to because when I go to it, the guy behind the counter knows me, and when I go in, he goes, I think you'd like this book, and I really value that human-to-human interaction. So using these ideas about what is coming, what it's going to reverse into, and what it's going to retrieve, when it came to setting the voice and tone for the website, we went with a very, very human, very unscripted way of talking to the audience. So this is their demo section where they talk about what they do, where they show what they do. And the whole intro, as you can see, is what the developer had just thrown in there as he was designing it. It was just the most real thing he could think of for the professional people to script and perfect later. And we're like, don't script and perfect it. What you said in the most raw way is exactly what we should go with. So demo, baby, was the way they introduced the demo. So if you go to biblio.org, you'll see the site is, you'll see what I mean. It's a human, unscripted approach to communication. They're not selling their identity, they're selling their vision of what is ahead. So that was applying Marshall McLuhan's tetrad to solve a branding problem. And to wind up, when it comes to communicating in the attention economy, which I did not realize I was in, and so most of my communication failed miserably because away I went and no one paid attention, I have 3 suggestions for ultimately capturing attention. So the first one is, be very easy to understand. Assume this for real. There's no difference between being drunk and smartphone. It's pretty much the same thing. Break patterns, okay? I think you said something like, information is what you do not expect. That is what information is. Something like this. And be real. So we can exploit trust signals. We can manipulate trust signals, of course. But the more we manipulate trust signals, the more people will turn to other trust signals. It's just a race to the bottom. At the end of the day, if you want to be trusted, be trustworthy, and you'll send all the right signals that reassure. Thank you. I'm looking forward to the handshake.
All right, thank you very much, Edward. That's obviously very relevant to us, not only in terms of helping our clients communicate, but also communicating ourselves. Any questions for Edward? Joe.
The scariest part.
Thank you for maintaining my attention. I like how you integrated the McLuhan model in there. Just sort of as a little bit of an aside, Marshall McLuhan is trending right now, literally right now, because it would have been his 106th birthday today, which is kind of cool. I think it fits in very nicely with the theme of everything, and it's pretty fascinating to see somebody who was working half a century ago, how he presaged and how prescient he was about everything that's going on. The way that you presented, I think a lot of the content that you shared picks up on a lot of those themes, so I think it dovetailed really nicely with what today is all about, which is Marshall's birthday, so thank you for that.
Oh, thank you. I think, so Marshall said something along the lines of, we make our tools, and then our tools make us. And this whole attention change that we've gone through, is largely driven by the internet and the fourth screen, our phones. Without those, we would not be so horizontal. I forget the best way to put it, but the way we capture data now is we just go like this, instead of starting at the top and going through. Largely driven by the tools that we created, right? So, absolutely. Please, please.
As I was listening to this wonderful talk, you made me think that the Trumpists have mastered quite a bit of this. I wondered if you would comment on that. You must have thought about it.
100%, and yeah, thank you for it. And it's 100% related to memes. Easy is the new true. I said it's emerging, but I really feel like it is now. Memes are easy. You don't have to think about, is it true? It's just a picture and an association, and you go, yeah, looks, seems okay, good enough. So a large part of Trump's campaign was really memes, both the typical picture memes of a meme and a caption, and then just these sound bites, which again, they don't have to be true, they're just really easy to understand. Solve the problem by making a wall. Good. I can see how it works, okay, good enough. That whole thought of, but will it really work? That's not easy. So basically done. Unfortunately, that whole concept of easy will become the new true. I think Trump's team embraced easy is true. Tell them what is easy for them to believe, and we're in. And you can see what happened, basically. The meme culture is the way forward. Now, I haven't spent a lot of time. There's a site called InfoWars, and I don't know enough about it to say it's good or bad, but I know it is roughly related to this stuff. Now, how much it says terrible stuff, how much it says good stuff, and whether it's true or not, InfoWars is sort of where we are. It's a meme versus a meme. It's not truth versus truth. It's just what idea that's easy to believe, it runs until another idea that's easier to believe kills that one. And that's sort of where we are. It's not a truth-based reality. It's a easy-based reality.
Well, even Trudeau saying, because it's 2015, is an example of just making it easy. He just, he didn't sort of offer any reasoned argumentation. He just put a statement out there, and it went viral. I mean, it's referred to over and over again. So, arguably he's a force for good, I hope. So it can be done on both sides.
Exactly related to what she said, my sense is that, I don't want to overgeneralize, but the manipulators have grabbed these ideas and run with them. And if the thinkers don't grab the same ideas and run with them, then we're all in trouble, right? So these ideas, that whole attention economy thing and attention transactions, to me, attention transactions was this sort of illuminating sentence. If we don't have an attention transaction, all that good stuff that we have later is a tree that falls in the forest. First, the transaction, whatever it takes to get that, and then everything else.
Yeah, so thanks, brilliant presentation. I wrote something down, you said it was trust lies in the past. And now with the comment from Easy, and you just said it multiple times, it doesn't have to be true. There's a discrepancy there between the trust and how to get trust. You even say, doesn't matter how you get the attention. So we're not working on trust at that moment. How do you do easy and trust? Especially if it's in the past.
I have an answer. I do have an answer. And it came from working around a lot of drunk people, which is true. I used to work at the Drake Hotel just down the street. And there are drunk people there sometimes. And at the end of the day, when it comes to communicating with drunk people, you have to you cannot explain to them why they shouldn't be taking their clothes off on a table. You cannot, you just have to say something easy, right? And I used to try to think out how to communicate with people. It never worked. The way to communicate to drunk people, and what I extract from that, the way to communicate to the world today, outside of this room, because we're all a special group, don't go out the door, it's a scary world, right? The way to communicate to the world out there, instead of thinking out and scripting what you're going to do, we have a way of communicating, which I would say I discovered or uncovered through frustration, and it is, what is that initial sense? Why are you looking at me? That's what I feel. at this exact moment. I know why you're looking at me, but I have the sense of why you're looking at me. That's the first thing I feel, right? If I say that, it sounds very real. It's very easy to understand. It's because it came out of me. It's unscripted. So what I suggest when it comes to communicating is first go with that very initial sense. Look at it and go, how can I then present this where it won't bite me later? So script it after you started with that gut. If you go, let me design the designing and all that, gets it away from easy. Easy is initial. That's easy and true. Yeah, it's...
I think we have to move on. I'm sorry. So, sorry, maybe you can ask him a question later. But thank you very much, Edward.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.